Hey guys, so here's another little review for you today. This is a book that I read as part of Classics Club. Classics Club was started by a booktuber named Scott Place, who if you are not subscribed to yet, you should definitely be subscribed to him. He just did this really cool booktuber drawing challenge, and it was really awesome. He's just a great booktuber, and I think you should go check him out. He's a little busy though lately, so he can't really run Classics Club as much as he wants to. So it's kind of going to be trading hands on who is running it for a little bit. And right now, for this next month, April, it's going to be run by this booktuber named Jocelyn at the Owl's Perch, who has been doing booktube longer than I have, and definitely deserves more subscribers than she has. So you should go subscribe to her, and you should totally join in Classics Club. They're reading Dracula in April, which is one of my favorite classics ever. So if you haven't read Dracula and you want to, then you should definitely join them. I'll put a link to her video talking about Classics Club down in the description, and I'll also put a link to the Goodreads group on Classics Club in the description, which you are free to join at any time. So the book we read this month in March was The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, and this version of it actually has another book called The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells in it, and I read both of them, and I'm going to review both of them in this video, so you get like an extra bonus review. So The Time Machine, first of all. This man, simply known as the time traveler throughout the book, claims to have invented a time machine. He is the protagonist of the story, but it's actually told from another perspective. It's basically told as the time traveler telling this story to the narrator and another group of people, this group of colleagues with the narrator included, and each of the people in this group is only identified by what they do, like the journalist, the medical man, the psychologist, the editor, etc. And the time traveler is basically just telling his story to this group of people. The first part of the book kind of has him explaining that he has invented a time machine to this group of people, and then as we get into it, he has another meeting with them where he has just come back from traveling in time and kind of takes over the rest of the story, telling us what happened, telling this group of people what happened to him while he traveled in time. He explains in great detail the process that happened when he time traveled, which was really interesting to read about. It was very descriptive. He explains to them the people he encounters when he gets to the future. It's like these really childlike, small people that don't really pay much attention to him at all. He kind of freely explores this future world, and then when he comes back to where his time machine was, it has disappeared, and then the rest of the story kind of follows him trying to find his time machine. He develops this sort of relationship or friendship or whatever with this one of the childlike adult creatures named Weena. He finds out that there is this other species of people living underground and that only come out at night called the Morlocks. And I really enjoyed reading this a lot. It's a really short story, so I won't go into too much about the plot. I found it to be really interesting, and I kind of saw a lot of plots of certain TV show episodes in this, they were inspired by this, which kind of made it even funner to read and kind of enhanced my enjoyment of reading it. I like the way it's told. I thought it was cool that we were kind of a part of this group of not necessarily identified people that are listening to the time traveler tell his story. Though his explanations can get kind of long-winded in his telling of the narrative and his explanations of what happened, it did feel a little slow at some parts. Though overall I didn't really think it was slow. It's a really short story. It's 90-something pages long, so it went by really fast either way, and I really liked the way it ended a lot, so I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Since this is a short story, there isn't really a whole lot more to say about it, so I'll go ahead and start talking about The Invisible Man, which I actually liked a little bit more than The Time Machine, mostly because the plot itself and the characters were more interesting to me. This man, mostly identified throughout the book as the Stranger, though we do eventually learn his name, is the main character, and he's been doing these experiments on himself that kind of have rendered him invisible. Evident at the beginning mainly because of the name of the story. It's not really evident at first that he is invisible, and definitely not to the other characters in the book, but we kind of know because of the title. He comes into this town called Iping and stays at this inn. This character named Mrs. Hall kind of takes care of him right away because he pays her good money for it, kind of feeds him and gives him a room to stay in. But he has quite a strange appearance. He's completely wrapped in bandages. He has these giant glasses and has a ton of clothes on that kind of cover up his entire body. He looks really strange, and Mrs. Hall kind of pries and tries to figure out what happened to him. She thinks that maybe he was in an accident and is trying to cover up some disformity that he has. But the Stranger has a very short temper, which we are quick to find out. He doesn't like the attention at all and doesn't like having people pry into his business, and he gets very angry when people start to ask too many questions. He kind of begins to do more experiments at this place he's staying at, to the dismay of the other people that live there and the other townspeople. They're all worried about his strange appearance and the fact that he hasn't given them a name. Also, there's a robbery recently that has happened since the stranger appeared. Everyone is very weary of him, and they kind of attempt to confront him, and most of the book follows what happens after they try to confront him and what he does after being confronted, what his plan is, how he came to be this way, etc. I thought the story was really interesting. The Invisible Man himself is a really great character. You begin by feeling a little bit sorry for him because of his condition, but then come to realize that he's a bit of an asshole. His actions and the way he treats people is kind of repulsive and really obnoxious, but at the same time he's just a really great, interesting character to read about. He's like the main character, and all of the characters in the story are just really well done. I really like the dialogue most of the time, except for there's this kind of dialect that got really annoying after a while, and I don't have the patience for dialect in most books. The story was told sort of similarly to The Time Machine by this outside narrator, though that's not necessarily obvious at first in this story. It seems sort of like a third-person narration at first, with a little bit of hints that it's being told in first person, but then we eventually switch to full first person, and then it goes back to like third person again. It's kind of like this narrator telling us his view on how the story happened, and I really liked it overall. I really enjoyed reading it. H.G. Wells kind of has this habit of going on and on about certain things, which is nice because you get like a lot of description about how things are happening and what things look like, and you kind of get a really good picture of what things look like, but at the same time it can be way too much, especially when a story is being told by a character to another character, which H.G. Wells seems to do a lot. Anyway, 4 out of 5 stars to both books, and 4 out of 5 stars to this book as a whole in general. I really liked H.G. Wells' writing. I'm going to read more by him at some point, I think. This is the first things that I've ever read by him, and overall I really enjoyed it, so it was a good experience. First experience with Classics Club, definitely successful, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that review. Let me know what you thought of these stories, if you've read them, what you think of H.G. Wells. If you're in the Classics Club and you've also read this book, I'm definitely interested in hearing your thoughts about everything as a whole. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you later with more.